You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darragh O'Connor on the...
Welcome to the Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
Hello everybody, it is Phoenix 92.5 FM. Welcome to Wrestling Rewind. My name is Darragh O'Connor. This is, of course, the show after WrestleMania. No, wait, this is the show after SummerSlam. Welcome to the show. I'm a little bit flustered because Comic-Con is this weekend and we're doing our first panel back, which is scary to be honest with you, but it should be all right. If you guys are there, please do pop in and say hey.
And also Brock Lesnar turned up at his house with a forklift and tipped it over, so he's...
Yeah, I'm a little bit shook. Do pop over, say hey, and it will be up on the feed as well. Also, please go over to nerdtoknowmedia.com or thewrestlingrewind.com, where you can find links to all the shows, how to contact us, the social media, the Twitter, the Instagram, all that kind of good stuff. Because, Martin, it's been so long and so hard for people to actually contact us, because I realized everything is everywhere, and now it's neatly in 2 URLs that people can go to. So I don't want to hear any excuses. If I don't start hearing emails from people or tweets from people, I'm going to be very upset, because I know you listen and you have no excuse. So nerdtoknowmedia.com, thewrestlingrewind.com, everything is there. Anyway.
That's an invite. The next one will be a threat.
Exactly. We've asked nicely. We won't keep asking nicely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard him in the background. He's the one, the only, the undefeated 1-0, Mr. Martin Harty. How are things, Martin?
Grand. I'm very excited about tonight. Tonight, as you know, Darragh, is my last podcast with you, but I'm going to do a Ric Flair, and I'm going to be doing my last podcast with you for the next 25 years.
25 years.
Just before we started the recording, I saw a tweet from Ric Flair that him and Andrade El Idolo have yet another match this weekend in Puerto Rico. So, 24 hours, or what is it? No, maybe just a week after his huge farewell pay-per-view. The whole pay-per-view called Ric Flair's last match. Ric Flair has another match. He is just the carniest of all carnies.
You know, I expect you to bleed now, and I expect you to fake a heart attack, and then run-ins, and
start elbow dropping my t-shirt.
Oh man. Okay, I know you haven't seen it. We talked about it beforehand. So, folks, if you haven't seen it, and for anyone who's listening, Ric Flair had his last match last week, which was literally called Ric Flair's last match. It was put on by Jim Crockett. What's your man's name?
Jim Crockett Promotions.
Jim Crockett Promotions.
Which I didn't even know was still around.
Yeah, but Jim Cornette apparently was involved in the booking of it. Or else I'm getting confused. Was it Jim? Look, I'm gonna look that up. Hold on.
So it's Jim Crockett Promotions. That's the company that, Jim Crockett Promotions used to do wrestling. They had a couple of territories back in the territory days.
That's it. I thought that was done, and for some reason my brain read it as
Jim Cornette.
Jim Cornette. Right. So last week, Ric Flair had his last match on the pay-per-view called Ric Flair's Last Match, run by Jim Crockett Promotion in Tennessee. Okay. Oh God.
We now know that by last match he just meant most recent.
True. So the Wikipedia article is quite interesting, right? Ric Flair lost his first retirement match against Shawn Michaels in 2008. He would later wrestle on the Hulkamania, Let the Battle Begin, and then TNA. And he has since come back only to wrestle. Has said he only came back to wrestle after the match with Michaels because he was significantly in debt and regrets having done so. So What does he do? Comes back. I mean, what an insult this is. Like, fair enough. There was no Michaels wasn't there. Taker was there. Mick Foley was there.
Bret Hart was there.
Bret Hart was there, which was surprising.
Well, both Foley and Hart hated Flair. Like,
well, maybe that's why they were there. And Tony Schiavone was there as well.
They were all there to see him die in the ring.
Well, here's the thing. He did fake a heart attack at one point, so it was like, maybe, maybe this is it. But like, I didn't even know this was happening. First time I found out about this, like something popped up on YouTube or memes popped up first, because that's how you usually know something happens. And then a video popped up on YouTube saying, I watched this so you didn't have to. And it's awful. Like, real bad. I mean, apparently the pay-per-view wasn't bad. There was like, the Guns were there, which was cool. They took on the Wolves. Like, the actual undercard was quite good. The Guns versus the Wolves, which is class. Davey Boy Smith Jr. took on Killer Cross, which wasn't great. But I mean,
Gresham was there.
He was, and then there was Jerry Lawler was there with Double J as well, cutting promos, and then there was apparently a pretty good AAA Four Corners match as well. So like, the show was good. They didn't need this.
The Ric Flair match.
They didn't need and I'm like, fair enough. They probably got more buys than they would have at all.
Well, in terms of buys, apparently it was one of the most successful indie pay-per-views ever.
Yeah, because it's false advertising.
Well, yeah.
It's
as we've established, last match means most recent. The next pay-per-view will be Ric Flair's final match.
Look, if Ric Flair died, he'd probably still come back and wrestle.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Now, all joking aside, right? Who wants to see this? Who wants to see another one? Who wanted to see this? I mean, I was happy enough when he retired in WCW, when we took, 22 years ago, all right? I was happy enough when he retired in WWE 18 years ago. I was happy enough when he officially retired in 2008. And I remember this talking point being, oh my God, this was awful, when he wrestled Hulk Hogan in 2010. Who wanted this? Like, who said, you know what?
Do you know what all this is?
You're a young kid there, Flair. We're gonna make you a star.
This is all Vince McMahon's fault, because he wouldn't book the goddamn Flair Hogan match when they were both in their prime, and he had the chance. And now they've been trying to capture that for the next 30 years.
But okay, so the match itself, again, I have actually seen it, right? And I also saw a breakdown of it that I initially watched before seeing it. And there was a good, if it had been like a 4-minute match where, they fall over a little bit and then he puts on the figure 4 and they have a big celebration, he walks off into the sunset. Grand, you know what? Probably would have been okay. It wasn't that. It was 27 minutes of a man bleeding all over the place, and falling everywhere, and faking a heart attack, which again could have been a heart attack. I hate Ric Flair. I mean, I really do. And I was watching. I know that's shocking to people. I mean, I would rather watch David Flair than Ric Flair.
Hold up there.
No, don't stop me. I know what I'm saying.
Mad.
I know what I'm saying. At least he was entertainment. He was entertaining, and he retired with dignity. Now I know he died, but he still retired with dignity when WCW ended. He didn't show up in WWE and try to, retire again. But man,
he did actually. The last thing we've seen of David Flair in the WCW shows is actually the one really good thing he ever did, where he's hiding out in the house, and Tony Schiavone comes
over and cuts the promo, and he gives him the cold pizza.
He's like a goddamn tweaker. He's
amazing. amazing. Best thing ever.
Yeah, it's bloody great.
It was the best thing ever. And again, if you guys haven't listened to that, check a couple of shows back where we talk. I can't remember what pay-per-view it is. It's somewhere in WCW 2000. But man, I mean, I was watching, because obviously we're not going to cover the next WCW show because you didn't watch it, and I just can't cover at the moment. There's so much going on, so we're going to just do SummerSlam in the news. But when I was watching that, the main event has Ric Flair coming out and doing commentary, and I just have such disgust listening to him, because you're like, everything you're saying is lies. Because he's talking about how he doesn't want to, he's happy enough for retiring, and he's done everything, and you're like, you continue on for 22 years. It's proper lies.
22 years so far. Like like we say, he has another match. We have no idea how long this is going to go on for.
How irresponsible is that? I mean, look, I'm sorry, right? If you're Andrade, right, or even in the ring, right, Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, and Andrade carried that match, right, last Saturday or Sunday, whenever it was, the 31st, and Rick just bled everywhere, and he was carried to the segment, and the man tried to do figure 4 leg lock, and he basically passed out. He won the match with his shoulders down. Technically, it should have been a draw.
Someone at Dynamite actually had a sign in the audience.
It should have been a draw.
Rick's shoulders were down.
Rick's shoulders, and it wasn't even like they were he was so exhausted, he literally couldn't do it, right? I don't know how those 3 men and Karen Jarrett can sit there and go, you know what, Rick?
Let's go.
Still got a kid, It's like, maybe they should be like, no, just don't. Here's the thing, right? So it took what it took to take Vince McMahon to retire. Rick had those similar things allegedly, and still there. It's like, what's going on? Like,
I'd say what happened was the police landed at his door to read the charges to him, and every time they read one out, he just went woo,
or he just bled on them,
and he just kept going woo until they just left.
I just don't understand this, man. I mean, it's irresponsible, and if Rick does die in the ring, which
at this stage it seems like it's his goal.
That's what it seems like. Look, he's a legend, I get it, but even still, I would argue with someone. Go, was he? How? He stopped being a legend when WCW finished, in my opinion, because everything he's done since has been tarnishing that legacy to the point that he gets in the ring, bleeds everywhere, falls over, everyone feels sorry for him, and then no one says don't do it.
I think my thing with Flair is, it's probably a generational thing. I never understood the hype around him, but again, I didn't see WCW in the 80s. I didn't see the NWA. I didn't see, the huge battles that you hear about that he had with, the likes of Terry Funk and that. Like, my initial introduction to Ric Flair was sort of the brief stint he did in WWF. And I mean, I just didn't see what was the best wrestler in the world about him. And like I say, I'm happy to admit it's because I'm not familiar with the work from his heyday. But I'm a wee bit like yourself. He's just never been someone that I've personally regarded as one of the best ever.
Again, probably at some point.
Yeah.
Probably at some point, he probably was. And some people say he absolutely was. How dare you say there was? It's like, for example, some boomer was talking on Facebook today about how they love Iron Maiden, and I'm like, Iron Maiden's a terrible band. They're singles band. They've never made a good album. They make good singles. And they're like, oh, Saint Anger's bad. I'm like, no, Saint Anger's bad from a production standpoint. The songs are actually stronger. I would listen to Saint Anger all day, the version that I listen to, rather than one Iron Maiden album, because the songs are weak. And here's the thing: you say that some people's heads explode because it's a generational thing. They're like, "Oh, how dare you?" And you're like, "No, listen, got to stop and got to put it down. We got to put it down and say, right, in hindsight,
put the gramophone down.
Put the gramophone down, right?" But I mean, this is like the wrestling boomer thing, where people will be like, "Hey, and you're like, Ric Flair probably was awesome. But he's done so much damage to his legacy at this point, where it's like, okay, Terry Funk, right?
Yes.
Terry Funk would be an equivalent. However, Terry Funk made people. He showed up for a reason. He didn't just show, here, Rick, get this. Stop marrying people.
Well,
like, stop marrying people. And then maybe you won't be in financial. Like, does no one say to him, listen, man, you have 12 wives or something.
Yeah.
How many do you need? Like,
Maybe
half your family are in the front row. It's like,
he wants one for
Charlotte,
every world title reign.
does Charlotte not say, listen, Dad, can you stop? Like, can you just, I'll give you the money, right? I mean, is no one saying anything? I'm sorry. I'm getting upset here. I don't understand it. I'm just watching this whole thing and I'm like, this poor man, you know? And look, yeah, again, and that's all I see. I don't see him as a 16-time world champion. I see him as this poor man who you tap his head and he starts bleeding.
Well, the thing about the Terry Funk comparison is, once Funk was over the hill, right, he kept coming back, but he came back in, lower mid card or opening match WCW hardcore 10-minute nonsense.
Now the WCW stuff again. Yeah, but I'm talking specifically when he came after the Japan stuff and he went into WWE with Mick Foley. He also, did the Chainsaw Charlie thing, but then would do, made a bunch of stars in ECW, basically created ECW on his back.
Yeah.
And then with Sabu and all that kind of stuff. And then he went to WWE, did the Chainsaw Charlie thing, was an agent as well. So he did a bunch of things there, and then went and did the nonsense in WCW. But
that's what I mean. Once he kind of knew himself, he was past it or past his prime. Like, that's what he did. He didn't insist on being, the main event, the top level, going toe to toe with the champions. Like he knew where his abilities fit in the card.
But what was okay? Here's what I would have done, right? So Rick coming out with the big gold belt. Obviously, he loved it. He looked like he was having a great time, right? Why did he need to wrestle? They still could have had the farewell to Ric Flair, right?
Yep.
Oh, why didn't they do that?
Yeah, they could have had a match for the.
Who's to blame for this? Who's to blame for this? Apparently, Conrad Thompson brought up to Mick Foley's last match. So Conrad is still pushing this, that they should do this. It's like, do you want them crippled?
Oh, no.
Do you want them dead? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I love wrestling. So do you. But I'm like, this is irresponsible.
The only thing I think.
Like, hold on. Do you not think I don't want the Triple H last match? If he gets in the ring, he's dead. Like, I'd rather Triple H not be dead than see him wrestle. They should give him all the belts. But, I mean, just cause. Well, I mean, he's the creative. He runs WWE now, so I mean, he has all the belts. But
what about that gown we talked about last week that looks like you're draped in all the belts?
But like, that's the thing. I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep going back to this. I can't get over the fact that nobody is there. I watched that, and we're like, right, we need more of this. We need to ruin all the legacy of these people who've done more than enough. Like, I don't want to see Mick Foley in a match. I seen that. You know where I seen it? Impact. It was terrible, and that was 13 years ago. Sorry. What are they watching? What? Someone tell me. Can someone tell me?
The thing is that now, and I don't know anything about Puerto Rico or the good people of Puerto Rico. I'm sure they're lovely.
Probably.
I'm only going by what I have read in other people's books, like Mick Foley's book, Bret Hart's book,
Chris Jericho's book,
about Chris Jericho's book,
Dirty Dutch Mantel's book,
about what the wrestling industry in Puerto Rico, at least was like. It doesn't seem like the most scrupulous place in the world. So if Ric Flair hobbled up to them and said, "I got one more match in me, brother," woo, they were like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah, but I mean, he can say that, but is no one around him taking him aside and go, like, okay, Ric Flair wasn't alone in this. He had other co-conspirators, Mick Foley, The Undertaker not be like, listen, man, you gotta stop. Like, did no one say this to him? It's like, I don't know. Again, and this way people go, oh, Ric Flair's great all the time. I'm like, right, he probably was, but this has done so much damage to his legacy that all you can think of is this. And it's like when people talk about Metallica. To go back to the thing, Metallica's been a bad band longer than they've been a good band. And the more albums they release, the further that goes down. So I know people who hate Metallica because of what they released, and I don't really hate them at all. I think they're great, but
I thought Death Magnetic was pretty good.
So did I, yeah. But some people, the damage that they did by not breaking it up or being side
Saint
projects. Or Saint Anger, again, I would listen to Saint Anger. No, but not the recorded version. Holy, that snare, the minute it hits you like this.
Oh, no, I've got a pen cup here.
That's better. Mic that up. There you go. Mic that up. But oh man, I mean, look, folks, if you think I'm being hyperbolic, watch it, and you'll just feel sad. Like you'll just, it's upsetting. It's upsetting to see this because it's like I'm puzzled that nobody stepped in for this. I'm puzzled that Conrad Thompson, who again should know better, is there pushing. Oh, we need more of these last matches. It's like, no, they retired for a reason. Like, I don't know. It's just baffling.
Well, I mean,
baffling.
Conrad's a bit of a grifter himself.
I tell you what, Conrad, you go in the ring, bleed everywhere. Have a good time.
I'm surprised Conrad didn't jump in the ring in the middle of the match to sell what did he sell? His insurance or bloody financial advice or whatever it is.
Oh man, I mean, it's horrible. It really is. It's like there's that point where the fan and the reality needs to step in. Someone needs to be the adult in the room. And it's kind of funny that Vince McMahon, for all of his copious amounts of sins that may or may not be true, and are getting worse by the day, he at least had enough sense to go, no, Rick, stop. Think about that.
You're done.
Think about that. This is Vince McMahon, the man who would do anything for money, would have enough sense to say at a certain time, no.
I feel bad for Andrade El Idolo and all of this. Like he's probably in a position where he probably feels like he can't say no. He can't upset the wife's father, but he's also in a position where he's like, oh Jesus, she is never going to forgive me if he dies in this bloody ring, with me. And
that's probably going to happen. Like genuinely, like imagine the awkwardness where he's like, "Oh, sorry, honey, we killed," or they don't have kids, do they? Do they have kids?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Imagine, well, if they did, like, sorry, yeah, we killed your grandfather. Jesus Christ, like
I killed him. Superplex. Don't know why we thought it was a good idea.
He's held together by duct tape and prayers.
Just shattered. He shattered like pottery.
Oh man, just poor guy.
It's actually when you said it probably won't be his last match. He'll probably do a match from Beyond the Grave. I got this image of. Have you ever seen that footage of Kenny Omega wrestling the blow up doll? And he bounces around the ring throwing but he does it so well that it looks like the doll's throwing him around. I could see poor Andrade having to do like Ric Flair's last tour, like doing the
Weekend
Canadian Destroyers with his corpse.
Yeah, Weekend at Bernie's kind of thing.
Draping him over him and down to the couch, lifting the arm.
But that's kind of what happened in that match where he beat him, where they had the figure 4 leg lock on and nobody actually won, but everyone was like, "Oh, Rick, you won." It's horrible. It's disgusting. It really is. It's, as you said, it's the most carny thing in the world, and nobody has the taste to come in and go, no.
Well, look, for all we could give out about him, your man is, what is he, 70 now?
Ric Flair?
Yeah, older?
73. 73.
Right. So for all we can give out about Ric Flair being 73, it is 2022.
Colin,
we're still talking about him.
Conrad Thompson is his son-in-law. Holy Christ, this gets worse. You're like, are these? Know what it is? These two guys. I'm saying it now. Obviously, this is a conspiracy theory, so break your tinfoil hat out. These two guys are trying to get him killed for whatever money's left. It's a conspiracy. A conspiracy.
I don't know that. No matter how much money he has, it's going to be split between 12 wives. You know?
I'm going to count 1,
Not
2,
gonna go that
3,
far.
4, 5. There's 5 of them. These, that's like they could have a Survivor Series match. There's a Survivor Series team there.
Whose wives would they go up against?
I don't know. But, I mean, you can have a team of them. Like, you have like the Bellas and a few others. Like, there you go. There's a match. Do that. Put Rick's career on the line for the 60th time. Oh, Rick, what are you doing? What are you doing, buddy? Seriously. Oh man. Yeah.
Well, he's not the only sort of blast from the past that's sort of been really making headlines the past week or so.
I'm still not over this. This is.
Oh, you're still on?
No, I'm still not over this.
I was just trying to do a segue into the Triple H stuff, but we can do a full hour on Flair.
It's just, oh man. Here, am I alone? Like, again, I know, you know, anyone listen, am I alone on this? Am I overreacting? Because I just want to know, is this where we are as like a society where we watch?
Do you know what I think it is?
What?
If this had happened any other year, everyone would be reacting the same way you are. But given what has happened wrestling in the past year,
fair.
People are like,
fair.
Oh, Ric Flair's having his last match, but not his last match at 73, headlining his own pay-per-view event with Jim Crockett Promotions. Yeah, sure, throw it on the pile along with Vince McMahon quitting and the AEW rising and COVID and empty arena matches, and throw it on the pile.
Can we go back to the empty arena matches? Because, you know, I miss the empty arena matches. This is what we're going to get. Again, everyone's sitting there. If I had bought a ticket for that, I would have been like, I want my money back and the police need to be called. I need to watch the murder happen. Like, yeah, so it's ridiculous. Anyway, right, go on. We do a transition. So Triple H, the game,
yes,
is able to have all the belts, and yet he doesn't. That shows restraint.
He finally is truly the game.
But here's the thing. I was actually listening to Going in Raw before we went on, and Becky Lynch apparently did a shoot where she was saying, you know, things are just so much better. Like, genuinely, people feel happy there. And, you know, Bianca and the boss,
Sasha, are not
Sasha,
coming back.
they're talking about coming back, and you're just like, yeah, well, why wouldn't they? You know, the main reason they left is kind of gone now, you know, and it seems like all these changes are happening. And it wasn't like SummerSlam was a really weird show because, yeah, while it was still WWE, a lot of the goofy stuff was gone. And we'll talk about this. And even watching Raw and SmackDown, the commentators are just better. They're just like people. And a lot of the weird things that would happen on the show don't. And you're just like, wow, this is actually like really good. it's just
well, yeah, I mean, like,
imagine
you're on the podcast here, you know, trying to talk to people. So on in one ear you're listening to your own feedback, like, you know, talking to the audience, and the other ear I'm going, all right, now tell them that this is the only podcast made for wrestling fans who don't hate wrestling anymore. Say it.
But don't say the word podcast.
Don't say podcast.
Use radio show.
Audio entertainment.
Audio entertainment structure.
Like, yeah, it's like to be.
Yeah, I can only imagine what that was. The hell that Michael Cole went through for 20 years. Poor man. But it seemed like when during the main event, you could actually really just hear it where they were just killing it. It was fantastic, and you're just like, man, where was this for 20 years? And then you know where it was. Obviously, Vince was there screaming at them.
Doesn't it just go to show if McMahon had been gone at any stage in the past, you know, 15 years or so, or if they had kept this level of effort or energy after the WCW buyout, like you wouldn't have AEW. Like, there would have been no need for an alternative to Rise.
No, and like even when WWE created their own alternative with NXT, which NXT was pretty much, you know, proto AEW. It was everything that people wanted, like, legitimately, you know.
Yep.
And Vince was like, "Oh no." No, and then you're just like, whoa, okay, well, it was never going to be anything different. It was pretty much going to be what it was up until that was it. Now, the interesting thing about it is, so I have heard two things. I've heard the conspiracy theory, which follows along your conspiracy theory that Nick Khan is actually trying to position everyone to buy WWE to rise in WWE basically and to get it to sell. But that's a crazy conspiracy. I will link it in the description. I'll try to find it. It's can't remember who it is. It's like Wrestle Graphics or something. I can't remember.
Well, my theory isn't necessarily to do with a sale. My theory was to do with other people in that board, kind of angling Vince McMahon out. But now I've slightly changed that theory. Now I think, given that he is, after all, the cerebral assassin, I think those allegations were made by Hunter. I think he's the wrestler who Triple H forced to.
Oh God.
I think Triple H is the wrestler who Vince McMahon forced to pleasure him unless he wanted his contract. That
was a storyline. Do you not remember the Kiss My Ass Club?
Oh God, yeah. Oh,
hold on.
If this ever comes to like a trial or anything, like
you just have this played. Like, I mean, look, with that stuff, like, oh, you are joking, but I mean, when you are watching the show or when you go back to it, I mean, the stuff Vince has done on television is unbelievable, and we haven't even covered half of it because we've been.
It'll be like Lisa Simpson when she's when the news is using that picture of Homer doing the Russian dance with the vodka. She goes, "I told him that photo would come back to haunt him."
Well, I mean, where do you start? Do you go with the Trish Stratus barking like a dog?
Yeah.
Do you go with the HLA? Do you go with
It'll be Stephanie going, "I told him that entire decade would come back to haunt him."
Stephanie getting battered in the I Quit match was probably the most brutal match I've ever seen, where Vince crucifies her for 15 minutes. I mean, which is it? Like, you know, oh man, WWE, it's. You have to hand it to whoever stuck with it, though. To be fair, the pure madness of the place, where they basically have Vince, who is an absolute dictator, ruling by decree, despite the fact that everything's going on. And now with him gone like a week, the product has gotten so much better and watchable purely by just changing a few things. Like, Finn Balor's back for some reason. He's been gone for ages. Disappeared out the back and he just shows up and you're like, oh man, hey, he was hanging out in Wicklow for ages.
He had the temerity to get injured and Vince never forgave him for it.
No.
Literally, that was it. He was being pushed as first Universal champion.
Yeah.
He was going to be huge. He got injured, and it wasn't even like it was bad injury, but it wasn't, he wasn't going to be in the shelf
torn pec
for years or anything.
Yeah, it was a torn pec, yeah.
Vince just never forgave him for it. Like, that was it. He just.
To be fair, that match, that was SummerSlam 4 or 5 years ago. That was a great match with Seth Rollins. That's when Seth Rollins was doing his injury tour. He was injuring everybody. Really was. I mean, he racked up some amount of injuries and that's crazy. But the fact that Finn showed up and fair enough, the Mysterios won, or the Mysterio and Guerrero won. He's looking so like Eddie. Holy hell. Like, Dominic is just... Are we going to stop pretending that, or are they going to acknowledge it eventually? Because he even cuts his hair like him now. You're like, man.
Do you think are they leading up to, like, maybe that's happening on purpose? And
maybe
they're leading up to some sort of he's my pappy kind of storyline.
It's like that. If I was booking it, that's what I would do, because it's like, really looks like him now. It's kind of scary. You're like, oh, this is a funny joke, and it's like, not a funny joke anymore. It's just like, this is probably happening. But so obviously, they still lost, but that was to set up the return of Edge, right? Yeah. So I think we're going to see Finn versus Edge, and that's going to be pretty cool. And maybe that will go to a belt or something at some point. But what really shocked me about this show, SummerSlam, and Raw and SmackDown. Even SmackDown's always been the more watchable show. It's the fact that Raw doesn't feel like a punishment anymore.
See, I didn't watch it,
Oh man, it was literally like when you go to hell, all they have is Raw from 2010 up until,
But
and
see,
that's it.
so I like I've been a wrestling fan for so long. Like for me, there have been so many false dawns with WWE, so many promises of a new era, so many times that things are going to change, blah blah blah, and you get drawn back in and you watch it and it breaks your heart all over again. So like, I mean, after 15 years of that, like even though McMahon's gone and it is different from all the other times, it's not enough for me. I'm going to need a sustained period of people saying, no, this is actually good now for me to even consider like getting back into WWE.
Here's the thing. If Triple H wasn't head of creative, I would agree with you. I'd be like, yeah, man, and even still, give it 6 months and it'll probably be as good as NXT. Or the ratings would collapse and he'd be fired and then end up in AEW, which is the conspiracy theory that I've heard. And I don't know if that's true or not. But we'll see. I mean, if that happens, if Vince showed up in AEW, it'd be the best thing ever.
Oh my God.
That'd
Hilarious.
Wouldn't
that be the power move to pull?
Oh man, it'd be so funny. But the conspiracy is that Triple H will eventually go to AEW and Vince will start up NWA. And I'm like, I mean, that's some. I'm going to put that in the description of the show because that's some theory. And if it happens, I mean, give that man some money because why?
Wrestling fans are a rare breed. Like there's still people and not a small number. There's still a large number of fans out there. Well, I say out there on Twitter who are blindly and genuinely convinced that it's still a work, that Vince is going to come out at the Royal Rumble, or all these allegations are going to pass.
What's
and
he going to do?
Vince
Going to win
come
it?
out at WrestleMania
Win the Rumble? Is that? The win the Rumble again?
You say that, but didn't he just have a match at WrestleMania in March?
That's a fair point. That's actually,
we're sitting here giving out about Ric Flair. Vince McMahon just had a match.
Yeah, but Vince looked imposing. I don't know, man. The dark side of the ring are probably sitting there pulling their hair out, going, "What are we going to do?"
There isn't enough time. There isn't enough tape.
The next season and a movie and probably another season, it's just going to be this story, Vince McMahon in general, and the rest. And it's like, because libel and slander and stuff are all things that are things, right? So you can't just claim them. There has to be some kind of basis, even if it isn't comedy. So they're probably waiting to see how this all levels out. But if it does, man, everything they have is thrown out the window. Like, we don't care about this indie wrestler, Vince, and that's what it's gonna be. I want to see the movie that they made, but with all the new stuff in it. Where it's a gritty thriller rather than
It'll have to be after he dies. Because I remember listening to an interview with Dave Meltzer,
right?
And he was saying, I have been approached by so many publishing companies over the years. Like, it happens, he says, every 6 months I get approached by a publishing company who want me to write like the unauthorized book on Vince McMahon. And he says he absolutely will not do it because he has all the stories and all that. But he says McMahon is so litigious.
He's extremely litigious.
Unless you could every single line in it, unless you could back it up with verifiable evidence, every single line, he'd tie you up in court for the rest of your life. And like, they've come to Meltzer with big piles of money to do this, and he says every time he just refuses. It is not. He says, firstly, that like the amount of time and how to take over your life for the next couple of years, and then it might not even get published.
Like, that's the thing, you just don't know. And I would say that's probably what the Dark Side of the Ring folks are having as well. Where Vince would probably just do that. And, you have to protect their image. But again, if this stuff does come out and it is proven, and obviously I would say there's more coming, because you don't just walk away like this.
Oh, yeah.
there has to be more coming. And again, like, we don't know. We're recording this on the 5th of August, 2022, and the wrestling world is so wild right now that you just don't know, But it is funny, actually. So watching the WCW show, they keep making references to the new owner, right? And obviously it's a storyline. But then a month later, WWE actually buy them. So that's what happens. And I mean, there is precedent for this where it's like the wrestling world changes overnight. And that's kind of what happened here. So look,
it is. It's on par with it. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, that is how important this is. That's how important this earth-shattering thing is.
Sort of periods, or the three big notable events. If you were going to do like a short history of pro wrestling, it is Vince deciding to expand, taking that decision to, ignore the long-held rules of the territories and to expand beyond his own boundaries.
Yeah.
It is Vince buying WCW, and it is Vince retiring. Those are the three big things. And maybe depending, because it's far too early to say now, depending on how big it gets in the future, maybe the launch of AEW. But again, it's like we're years away from knowing, like, just what sort of, like, they've been incredibly successful for the first 3 years, but in terms of being the industry defining figure that Vince McMahon is, like, we're years away from knowing how significant AEW are actually going to be.
No, absolutely. And I think that's a very good point to kind of have that, because we can make jokes, we can laugh, but at the same time, I don't even think, because even as it was happening, when WCW closed down, and ECW closed down first, then WCW closed down, people still didn't really understand what that meant. And I think this is another kind of case of it where we are so blindsided by the fact that it happened and Vince didn't die, which I think everybody was like, yeah, he's not going anywhere until it does. Now it's like, oh, whoa, okay, WWE's still going on, and it's such a shock to the system in every way, where, we did that podcast. Also, apologies to everybody on the podcast. I did the best I could to try and save the audio. Turns out my mic wasn't up high enough. That's our fault. I told you.
Oh, right.
it was so last minute. We were not going to do a show that there was audio problems. So I did try to save it. It took me 4 hours to edit that show.
Oh God.
So I hope you guys appreciate it. I didn't want to
subscribe to our Patreon.
Well, that would be nice, actually. That's that would be really nice if you guys did. There is the link at thewrestlingrewind.com. You can throw some money. That'd be nice. Anyway, so yeah, look, let's get into this in the time we have left. Overall, I thought it was a very decent show. Not the best show in the world, not by a long shot, but also compared to what we were used to and compared to what it could have been like, it was very good. So I'm going to give you the floor, Martin, to kind of give your thoughts. Like, there were some bad points, I will say that. Some things that surprised me, Logan Paul being as good as he was, very surprising. But yeah, what did you think?
Well, look, so with WWE shows, you kind of grade them on a curve. So this was a very good WWE show. Overall, like, if you were just judging it purely as a pay-per-view, I thought it was slightly above average pay-per-view. I thought it had a really good opener and a really good main event. And everything else in the middle was kind of meh, but nothing was like egregiously offensively bad. So Becky Bianca, great match. Obviously, Reigns and Lesnar was just ridiculous, but in the best possible way. But I mean, as for the main body of it, I mean, Pat McAfee and Logan Paul, celebrity matches don't really do anything for me. Judgment Day, I'm not really into them. You had two matches then, the Lashley match and the Ronda Rousey match. They were kind of too short to actually really judge them to be anything. and then the Usos and the Street Profits. And I say this as someone who doesn't even watch WWE. I cannot see those two effing teams fight each other ever again. I looked up in Cage Match. They have in the past year fought each other 12 times.
Yeah. And the match is the same match.
And it's a good match, and they're both two great teams, and I'm not in any way putting them down. But if you give me Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson 12 times, I'm going to get sick of it.
The thing about it is, though, Double J showed up as the special guest referee, and I popped.
Didn't even hit anyone with a guitar.
I know, right? I was like, where was it? Did you run out of them? I'm going to Skype him here and be like, Jeff, what's going on? Like, legit. It's so funny. We're watching WCW where that's all he did. He doesn't come out and do it. And it's like, what are you doing?
Like, multiple times a match. Like, do you remember the one we reviewed a while back where it was the 3-tiered cage, and the third tier on the cage was just the walls that just had all guitars? Like, and wouldn't that have been brilliant? Like, surely, because the guitars are made of bloody, like, little more than papier-mâché. Like, even Ric Flair probably could have taken a guitar shot, you know?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. They should have worked that into the match, actually. That was there?
Because I haven't seen it yet.
No,
there
wasn't. No,
no guitar shot.
No. But here's I think the reason why they're not doing the Double J guitar spot in WWE is because he didn't really do that in WWE. I mean, he may have done it once or twice, but didn't really do it. It wasn't until he got to WCW where it was ridiculous, and then a TNA where it was even more ridiculous, where that's just how every match ended. So yeah, maybe that's what he had. But I mean, seriously, that's what they should have done. They should have had Double J, whoever won this match starts fighting with him, and then he gets the guitar and, cowboy plays, and brilliant.
Something, but anyway, look, it wouldn't have mattered because
I like Double J. Double J's great.
The Usos and the Street Profits, I just didn't want to see it again. Now, look, I didn't want to see Reigns and Lesnar again, but they went to such ridiculous lengths. Well, look, even I had to admit it was really good.
I agree with you. A lot of this match was very snore. It was stuff we'd seen before. The opener wasn't very good. Logan Paul surprised me, but I don't like celebrity matches as well.
You didn't like Bianca and Becky?
I've seen it far too much.
Oh yeah, I mean
it wasn't bad. I've seen it far too much. That's the problem.
It's just the issue with WWE, isn't it? Like,
but this is the thing. WWE, now that there is the the ability that Triple H is obviously going to hire a bunch of people back and not fire them
well, I mean, Nick Khan still has the.
He does,
but
they also need people to do matches, and they haven't got them. I mean, I have heard talk that Triple H is going to do some signings for free agents. So I heard that during the week. I don't know who.
What do you think becomes of NXT?
Okay, so I've heard two
Triple H. Because the 2.0 thing seemed like a direct FU specifically personally to him.
Yeah. So I've heard two separate things. One, they're going to keep it as it is, but kind of find that middle ground, which actually probably wouldn't be too bad if they kind of tone it back and it's just a show that has a different look. But then I've also heard that you could just scrap it and put something else on it. I mean, like, it's still early days again, and we probably won't get those major changes until the backstage stuff is being done. Like, the word wrestling is now allowed being said in WWE. Finally, wrestling. It took 22 years for the word wrestling to be allowed being said in WWE. Last time it was said, Joey Styles was cutting a promo about it in 2006. So I think give it 6 months and we'll see what's probably going to happen. But what I would imagine, it'll probably go back to being an indie promotion with a better television deal. And it becomes a feeder system then for WWE, and for AEW actually as well, because a lot of AEW guys were in NXT as well. So I think 2.0 was probably not long for this world, honestly. But it's still early yet.
God, just don't see. Well, the only thing that would change it is I was about to say I don't see 2.0 getting like a big TV renewal deal. I can't see any company like really wanting to renew it. But the only thing is maybe Triple H does what McMahon used to do, which is basically he used to tell them, well, you take 2.0 or you take NXT as part of the deal with Raw. Like if you don't take it, you don't get Raw. You know.
Yeah,
so.
and that's what will probably happen. You know, like now I have heard rumors which I do put stock in. Well, I've been saying it for about 2.5 years. WWE is getting bought. Now, what they're saying is, again, Disney looks like it's going to be... Disney could be a big one. Viacom, which is owned by Disney. Paramount or NBC. They're the big names that I have heard in several sources.
Not Peacock.
Well, the NBC is Peacock.
Oh, NBC's Peacock. That's right, yeah.
But Disney makes the most sense because, I mean... Disney...
Well, that'll be a big thing for their Disney Plus.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing. So, I was listening to someone talk about it as well, and they're saying that when UFC was bought, it was a similar kind of thing. UFC was bought, and their infrastructure was leveraged to make it UFC, right? But they left everything still there. It wasn't run by anyone from SUFA. It was just they just leveraged their. So, I would imagine that's probably what would happen. Triple H will still be left there. They'll leave everyone who knows how to do it, but they'll just leverage it on. Because imagine the boon Disney Plus would get would be huge, and that's who. If I was, I would want that, because imagine just having that where you can. And remember, dude, wrestling and Disney, it's not too far away. WCW was in Disneyland, literally in Disney World, sorry, for about 5-10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
WCW
not,
shows used to. Yeah, that's right.
And where's NXT? In Florida. It's not outside the realm of possibility that could happen. Will it happen? I don't know, but it could. We still don't know. And like this show, SummerSlam, if you haven't seen it, do watch it. The main event is super fun. Like it really is wild.
It's and look, they had to do something insane.
Yeah.
To like I said, to make me care about another Reigns Lesnar match.
Well, at the end of it, like not only like basically, Reigns has to kill Rock, puts 2 announce tables on him and the stairs, and still Rock is moving. So it's
the only thing about it is with him being Farmer Brock and coming out in the tractor and all that. Whenever he does return to WWE, I want him to come out to Marty Moan's "Hit the Deaf." I want that to be his entrance music.
I did think that was a nice touch. You're in Tennessee? Yeah, I guess it makes sense. If it had been in Iowa, it probably would have made more sense. But Tennessee, fair enough. Like, okay, actually, Tennessee, Music City, right? Again, Double J should have used the guitar.
It
was just
made
there.
Too much sense.
It was just there. So, I mean, the next show is the Clash at the Castle. Is that right? Yeah,
Clash at the Castle. Yeah.
Actually, 2 of my friends are going to it, and I'm like, "Well, how much you pay? You pay €400 for a ticket?"
Oh God.
And I was like, "Whoa, for 2
What-
matches? No, thank you."
What do you think happens there? Do you think they keep it on Reigns? So I heard some people saying that what they think will happen is they'll put it on Drew for the sort of the hometown pop, even though somebody needs to explain to America that Wales and Scotland are not only separate countries, they're separated by an entire other country. Drew is not from friggin' Wales.
Close enough.
But this is coming from the US, where people talk about Europe like
You
Europe's
can walk
a
there.
country.
You can just walk there.
But yeah, what do you think happens? Do you think they put it on him? Do you think they put it on him for the hometown pop and then maybe take it off him?
So here's the one for you, right? So this is the first pay-per-view in the UK since 2003 Insurrection, right? The first one. And I remember when Insurrection was on all the time, and Rebellion. I always loved the Rebellion logo. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, I remember it.
So this is a big deal, right? And I think this is very similar to Beast from the East, where Finn won the belt. Sorry, when Finn beat Brock I think it's a similar kind of thing. So we probably will see that. And it will be the first time and the first chink in that armor, really, of taking down this edifice that Vince created, where the glass ceiling was made of concrete or marble, right? And now it looks like because look, what's the point in having Roman Reigns holding the two belts now?
Well, that's like
It doesn't make any sense.
That's the question. Like he's been champion for 2 years. He
Hmm.
has both belts.
Yeah.
He's taken, by all accounts, he's like working on a massively reduced schedule now and
Yeah.
taking some time off in the future. Like you've built him up to be this like impossible, unbeatable character. You kind of created a rod for your own back. Like
Like have. I would be more concerned if Roman Reigns walks out with the belt. If he walks out with the belt, then I'm like, what did he do?
He could, because like I know you're saying it's the first match they've had in Britain for since Insurrection, but I mean you also got to remember that they look at international matches. You got the Saudi matches, you got the big Super Showdown Australia and all that. They look at them as glorified house shows.
In some cases, Beast from the East wasn't that, and they gave Finn his big return there. It was funny that it was in Japan, where he, rather than in Ireland. But
yeah,
I
suppose Japan was very
exactly, yeah, and it was actually really cool how he did it. But this isn't the throwaway pay-per-view. I don't even think this is on the same level as Insurrection. I think this is its own thing.
This is a proper.
Yeah. They probably won't do it every year, but they probably will do something. And maybe even this is a test or a consolation to look. We're not going to bring SummerSlam over, but it is the first time WWE has been in a major stadium. Like this, dude. This isn't a house show. This isn't something they're going to throw away. This is a serious thing they're actually trying to do. Now, what I'm more concerned about, quite frankly, there's 2 matches announced. Should probably have more than 2 matches announced at this point. But I think
when is it?
3rd of September. So they have a month.
Okay. Oh, so yeah. Okay, they have a month, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not the end of the world. It's not super close, but I would I would rather they have something rather than just 2. But then again, there is no other pay-per-view after this. Extreme Rules isn't until October, so it's its own thing, man. It's a big stadium show.
Yeah.
But at least we won't see some stupid dragon anyway. It looks terrible because that's what they were going to do if Vince was there. Some CGI dragon in the way in.
I wouldn't like the production. The production people are still the production people. Like
for now, Kevin Dunn is almost done there. Just about. He's on his way out as well, I'd imagine. So that's probably one of the changes that's going to happen because the lack of weird CGI things in SummerSlam was very nice. My eyes weren't offended every time I was watching the screen.
If this had happened 3 years ago, like I'd have been so all in with this stuff because I was still clinging to the edges of WWE, still at that. Oh, maybe it'll get better. Well,
now we know why it didn't, because Vince didn't want it to get better.
We knew that all along.
But it's confirmed now. I mean, it is confirmed. Like it was never going to change, no matter what happened.
Like those CGI, I hate those CGI entrances so much.
I really hate them.
But I don't know. Like the thing for me now is that it's the ex-girlfriend coming back to you after you've moved on. It's I've found someone better.
But see, here's the thing, and I understand what you're saying, and you are correct. But it's Triple H that's running it.
Mm-hmm.
It's now what they should do.
I still haven't forgiven him for his part in the Montreal Screwjob, though. So
what they should do, and I think would be very, very cool. And again, the groundwork.
Brett will forgive him before I forgive him.
The groundwork has been laid a little bit by this.
Yeah.
By having AEW guys show up on Raw for the John Cena thing.
Oh yeah.
Do something with AEW.
Not a chance.
I don't think so. I genuinely think there could be. Like, why wouldn't there be? Why wouldn't they do like something where they do like a little show or whatever? I mean, why not? Do on NXT versus AEW.
I just don't see it happen. I don't see whatever about Triple H. I just don't see Khan or Stephanie McMahon or the board of directors at all agreeing to it. It's something like fans would want. Fans would go crazy for.
They would go crazy. It would be one of the biggest pay-per-views of all time, and obviously not an invasion show because that's terrible. Do not do that.
But it would be a chance to sort of right the wrongs of invasion, to make up for that. I just don't see it. I don't see that they would look at AEW as the smaller company and they go, why are we going to promote them? Like, what if their guys come on and are actually awesome and they do amazing matches and they get massively over with their crowd? Like there are some guys in AEW who would so they do brilliant in AEW, but they just would be able to be lifted and put right into WWE. So obviously we saw it with Cody. MJF would be a big one. Orange Cassidy. If Orange Cassidy ever walked out onto a WWE stage, like, the place would lose its mind.
What I was coming from, I wasn't even coming from AEW guys proper. I was coming from some of the guys they lost. Because what Tony Khan, not Tony Khan, the other Khan, Nick Khan. No, sorry, it is Tony Khan. Nick Khan is
Tony Khan.
So Tony Khan was saying he's surprised that people are saying, people are going to leave who are in 3 or 4 year contracts, and that's true. A lot of WWE guys can't leave because ex-WWE guys in AEW are in these multi-year contracts. They can't leave, right?
Yeah.
But the precedent has been set with Forbidden Door, and also has been set by having, to be fair play to Tony Khan, to allow guys who are contracted to WWE, contracted AEW on WWE, and let's not forget as well, the Royal Rumble this year, Mickie James.
Yeah.
At the time, Impact Women's Champion showed up
with the belt,
and her music, and her Impact music. It's like, I don't know. Am I saying are they going to go out and have a long feud? No, but there could be some expedition matches. Chris Jericho comes back for a night with Judas. You have Daniel Bryan coming back as Bryan Danielson. Like, there are things that can be done. Shield reunion could be done with Moxley. Like, these are all things that they could do. Why not? Like, Vince isn't going to freak out, and if it does a huge buy, all right. But what I am seeing here is if Roman Reigns is dethroned at this pay-per-view, and obviously we'll cover it, I think everything is possible, because again, Reigns was not losing this belt anytime soon. He was probably going to carry that up until The Rock beat him at WrestleMania probably next year, if not the year after. So that's what the plan was. The Rock versus Roman Reigns.
I wonder if that will even still...
I doubt it. I really doubt it. I really do. But what was the plan?
The only thing I would caution is, and I've seen this from people online, like, people are acting like Triple H coming in now is like, this is the savior. Everything's going to change. Everything's going to be amazing. And I like say, I'm speaking to someone who has had however many years of experience of promises of new dawns and that. And I would caution people about being overly optimistic.
No, and I agree with you, and that's why I'm saying 6 months you'll start seeing big changes, right?
And I agree with you. And if in 6 months people are still saying good things, I tune into Raw.
Yeah, I think I think that would be a pretty good barometer. Right now, from what I hear, you can read the Observer or listen to Figure Four. So you can listen to the Observer online as well. And from what all the backstage stuff is, it seems like big changes are happening. All right. They're just not on the screen yet because the whole thing is being gutted basically from the inside and being rebuilt. And some of it is coming out on screen, as far as like the commentary is the biggest example of it. That commentary is some of the best commentary I've heard in WWE in years. Decades. Literal decades. The last time I heard commentary that good, Joey Styles was there. And before that, Paul Heyman and fucking
That
Paul
that's
Heyman and JR.
that's such a big thing because like
You know.
one of the major things that put me off was I couldn't listen.
I would always have it
Yeah.
on mute. I would always have it on mute. Yeah. Okay. Full disclosure, when I was watching SummerSlam, I had it on mute. And then someone else, I was watching a review of it, and someone was like, "Oh, the commentary is great." I rewatched it with commentary,
Yeah.
and it
It's
was
because for years it was so galling. It was
Yeah.
so fake and robotic, and
yeah.
you gotta get this, corporate catchphrase in, and you
The
gotta get this.
box like structure. It just puts it in sharp relief how bad it actually was. You know. But then again, when you have someone shouting down in your ear, and if you don't say it, you're going to get fired or whatever. I mean,
It probably, do you know what? Michael Cole probably did get a lot of undue hate that probably wasn't his fault directly, and I always hated him just because I couldn't listen to him. But again,
you know what? Do you know what? I'm glad though. Actually, here's what's weird. Michael Cole and Taz, when Paul Heyman was working with them, was always fantastic. So, and then when he did the show, the Women's Evolution show, and even the Cruiserweight Classic, that was brilliant too, because he didn't have that. So there were these flashes, but it really does kind of show you're like, whoa, at least near the end of Michael Cole's career, he's getting he's actually getting justified. He's like, it wasn't me. It was this crazy old man shouting at me.
Speaking of, it's just funny that you bring up Taz. Speaking of Taz and new beginnings and all that, AEW seems to be entering a new sort of phase. So Taz is now, he was big on Rampage and Dark and Elevation. Taz is now a full-time Dynamite commentator. Jim Ross comes out for the last hour of the show or for particularly big matches, stuff like that. So I don't know if he's been phased out or what. They recently did. So you remember there was all those tweets from Marco Stunt and Joey Janela and that whenever their contracts were up, that they didn't get there wasn't great communication from the office or anything like that. Apparently AEW has restructured their whole talent relations department. They've brought in what do you call your woman? Jordan Grace, is it from Impact?
Yes.
No, not Jordan Grace. Oh, is it? Yeah,
Yeah.
so apparently she's come in now on the women's side of things, and we've seen on Dynamite during the week that that the women's match, which quite often would get regulated to the kind of the second last match of the show, come on in the first hour, and they had an absolute. I don't know if you've seen this week's Dynamite, but
Not yet. No.
man, the women's match is Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter against Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm, and they battered each other. I mean, hell for leather.
Wow.
An unbelievable match. So it seems as well. Now I don't know. Maybe this stuff has been like you don't do something like this in a week. Like it's obviously been in the works, but just coming the week after Triple H has taken over in WWE, it seems like I don't know. It just seems like everyone's stepping up their game.
Well, see, this is it, right? AEW were playing a game that nobody else was playing. They were playing against themselves, right? Because WWE didn't see them as a threat. They didn't care. They were just going to make money anyway, right? Now Triple H is there, and he goes, actually, I want to make this good. So now they're competing for the same fan base. Like the WWE fan base is always going to be there. It's always going to be a group of kids who discover wrestling, watch it, and then grow out. Then there's fans who watch through their teenage years. There's fans like us who are lifelong wrestling fans, right?
For our sins.
That last two group was mainly enamored by AEW, same with Impact or whatever. Yeah. But now the fact that there is that competition where Triple H is like, you know what? No, we're gonna, it's gonna be its own thing. So maybe that's why they're like, yeah, let's actually step this up. I'm gonna go for it, and it's a good sign for AEW because, well, it's a good sign for both of them, to be honest with you, because like competition is what this was missing. Like we were watching. This is what we do on the show. We watch actually there basically, and around that time period, and we were just about to go into the WWE shows in 2000, 2001. You know, the 2000 shows are fire because they were competing against WCW. And we might get that again, where AEW shows are just that much better. WWE go back and reach the heights, and it might happen, it might not. But it's cool that instead of what we were used to, where it was, you know, and I'm gonna run down Impact here. You know, when TNA were in this same position, they were never taken seriously as a threat, and they would just do everything different to be different. And sometimes it worked. Like Lockdown was cool, the 6-sided ring was cool, the reverse battle royale was not cool, the last rights match was not cool. You know, all this kind of nonsense. And it's just a whole different kind of dynamic, but coming from the same area where it's like, right, we have this dynamic that's coming back, but for the longest time we didn't have it.
There's two things I'm really looking forward to. One of them is a wee bit longer term, I suppose. I really want to see what happens at Ring of Honor. Like, it was cool. The buyout was cool. The two pay-per-views have been great. Both of them are great. But Ring of Honor can't survive as a pay-per-view company. And, you know, sort of Rampage is slowly becoming the Ring of Honor show. And it's starting to drag a little bit on Dynamite. So I'm really interested to see what happens at Ring of Honor. I think Tony Khan kind of needs to make a call on that pretty soon, even if it ends up just being an online show on, you know, some sort of AEW network or whatever.
But you know what? You know what though? On that point, that's actually what I could see happening. I could see that being the Invasion show, where it's Ring of Honor and NXT.
Yeah, there's kind of a degree of separation there, kind of like a Cold War.
Exactly, it's like a proxy kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's one thing. I'm really interested to see what happens at Ring of Honor. The other thing I'm really interested to see is, so you Clash of the Castle coming up in a month, right? So we're obviously all coming off the Triple H news. People are on a bit of a high over it. You got this. I haven't
stopped being on the high. Everything I've ever wanted. Now, if he comes out wearing all the belts,
you got this Clash of the Castle thing, and it has its own.
I love the way you think I'm joking. Like,
no, I'm laughing precisely because I know you're not joking. But you got Clash of the Castle coming up. Like, it's got its own level of novelty. Even the name Clash of the Castle, like, people tune in just to see what it looks like. It's
where the real sets.
Oh man, that'd be.
That would be a huge thing if that.
That's like one thing AEW is massively missing out on.
Yeah, the real sets. Like, I know it's obviously costing probably double the amount, but it just adds so much.
Well, the thing with AEW is they're only doing 4 a year. Yeah. You know, put a bit into it. But anyway, so like Clash of the Castle has its own level of intrigue and its own level of novelty, and people tune in to see what it is. The test for me, I think, would be Extreme Rules. So Extreme Rules is the pay-per-view after Clash of the Castle. Extreme Rules is back to business as usual, another monthly pay-per-view, another 3-week build up to it. That will be, I think, the real sort of first test of the Triple H era. I think Extreme Rules will be the one to watch.
That's fair. That's a fair point. And I think we'll get the new, for want of a word, the new status quo by that point. They're going to see, right, what some of those big changes will have left quite an imprint on the show. But look, obviously, we're going to keep an eye on this. In between, obviously, going back to what we do on the show, which is Watch Wrestling for 20 years ago.
Yes, promise. Next week, we're back to
absolutely WCW. Back to WCW. I don't know. It'll be interesting. So, obviously, folks, we've launched a Patreon. It is there. There's different tiers. There's the basic tier just to support us, but then there's also other tiers as well to pick things we talk about. If you want us to do a list or anything like that as well. So that's all there. Please do go check it out.
And listen, I don't mean to be throwing threats around, but if people do not sign up to the Patreon, the next step is me and Darragh starting an OnlyFans. So,
Oh, Jesus.
you know,
Right.
So
You don't want that, folks.
you do not want that.
No, you don't want that. That's a proper threat. Like, there you go. So
I'll get him out. You get enough whiskey in me, and I'll get anything out.
So there you go. You've been warned. But if you don't want to support, if you don't want to pay, obviously the best way to do is just support the show. Tell everybody, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell people you hate. Go, look, this podcast, it's great, and then they're like, you wasted their time. So tell them that. But again, if you are at Comic-Con, we're going to do more conventions with Nerd to Know Media as well. So if you're coming to DCC, come and check us out. We're going to be doing the literally Everything is Wrestling panel this year. It's coming back. We'll probably do it again. Get Martin down from the north at some point, or even if we do QCon, we'll do it up north. That'd be fun.
I'll vault over that Brexit border. I'll get down.
But
I'll bring you a load of 6 County Tato
to the Free State. Oh my God!
Actually, I prefer Free Stato.
Free State. See, I feel bad now because I like Walker's crisps.
Oh, not even Kings.
No,
Get out.
Proper Walker's crisps.
West Brett.
That's it. They have ready salted. What can I do? I can't. That's the problem. I grew up with Lay's crisps in America, and they're the same thing. So
there you go.
It's. I blame America. Blame America.
Blame America.
But yeah, and obviously we'll be back next week to talk about some WCW stuff as well. I have discovered the archive of shows. All my interviews gone years back. So interviews with Rhino, Dixie Carter, Jeff Jarrett, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Matt Hardy, etc. They're all there. I didn't know where they went. They just I nuked the hard drive by mistake, and I found a backup of that. So I'm actually going to either put them on the True Penny channel, need to talk to James, or else they will go on the Nerd to Know Media. We'll rip them out at some point as well. And yeah, so there's lots of content coming, and yeah, we're going to be back next week here to talk about some WCW nonsense. Martin, before we get out of here, is there anything you'd like to plug?
New Mario Kart DLC dropped today. Whoop whoop.
Very cool. I got a controller for my Switch because I have the Lite, but I did get a controller because I can put it up and just kind of play it, when it's sitting there. And
Nice.
New Graveyard Keeper DLC dropped, so that is a fun game. I'd recommend it. It's not wrestling related. You literally maintain a graveyard.
Although we did miss out on today the whole so Fight Forever is apparently the first AEW game apparently is very close to being launched and is coming to Switch, which I'm delighted to hear.
Oh yeah, well it's not graphic intensive. It's like the Switch will well be able to handle that. Although I was playing the Power Ranger game today, which I play on the PS5, and it's built with Unity and it was stuttering very hard. So
Oof.
I'm like, okay, some fighting games it can handle, but that one maybe not. Like, I'll be interested to see like when it comes out what it's like. But at least it's coming out for the Switch. That's something.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't expect it. So but now now I don't have an excuse to buy an Xbox.
That's fair. Well, you could just buy one anyway and go, oops. There you go. Well, you can play Cyberpunk. It's playable now, kind of.
I was walking down the street and I tripped and tumbled into CEX and my card fell out of my pocket and
I hit the pin and
landed back here with an Xbox Series S.
I mean, that's stranger things have happened. Vince McMahon retired, so I mean,
there you go. Yeah, if the girlfriend questions it, I'll just go, look, the world's gone topsy-turvy.
Vince retired.
McMahon's gone. Ric Flair's a wrestling zombie. I accidentally bought an Xbox. It's just the way things are now.
I don't even question things anymore. It's just the way it is. All right, man. Well, look, guys, we'll be back next week again. nerdtoknowmedia.com, thewrestlingrewind.com, the True Penny channel, and of course, Phoenix 92.5 FM. We'll talk to you next week here on The Wrestling Rewind. Bye, guys.
Subscribe to my OnlyFans.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.